Hello everyone, my name is Rakesh Kuchana. In this video we will learn how to implement JSON Web Token, that is JWT. So we know right how this works. First of all, in the JWT implementation we need to know how to generate JSON Web Token, right? JSON token, that is JSON Web Token, that is JWT in short. And also we need to know how to validate or how to verify the JSON Web Token, right? So these two steps are very crucial. So normally this is okay, this is fine, how to generate JSON Web Token and how to validate JSON Web Token, and how the flow works generally. Normally the user requests for token in the first step, right? Then once he receives the token, user starts sending the request with JWT, right? So two steps will be there. So user requests for token by providing username and password. So once he get the request, once he get the token, then he starts sending the request using JWT. So anyway, first what we will do is we will learn how to generate JSON Web Token, and then we will learn how to validate JSON Web Token. Okay, so first of all we'll start with generating JSON Web Token. Okay. So for that we need some API, because we don't do manually, it is very complex if you want to do it manually, but we use one third-party API called JWT. So using that we can generate JSON Web Token. So that is this. I am copying this dependency here. I will just add this to the pom.xml. So this is this JSON Web Token, JWT. I am using the latest version here, 0.12.5. Okay. So after adding this, so this is our last step. So we have already done the basic security implementation using username and password in the last video. If you have not gone through this video, please go through it so that you will understand it, how we implement it. And this video is continuation of that video. Okay. Okay. Now we will create one utility class or a service class. Let's say JWT service, and here I need to create a method which returns token, right? That is generate token. So what it has to do is it has to generate the token. So how we can generate the token using the third-party API? We have a class called JWTs. Okay, so using this we can generate. So first we can add the header. So why I'm adding the header is, if you look at the structure of the JSON Web Token, so we have the header, payload and signature, right? So we have to provide these inputs. So first we will provide header value. So this algorithm provides, it will be generated by default based on the input which we provide, that we will provide the algorithm to the API. Using this it will understand that okay, this is the algorithm we are using, and it will add this particular property into the JSON. Okay, but this is not added by default, so we will add this one. Okay, how to add? So we have an add method. So in this we can add, let's say type, we are using JSON Web Token, right? JWT, right? So I am adding JWT. So once we add the header, what we add the next, what we have to do at the next? So we have to add these things: subject, issued at expiry time, and also we need to generate the signature, right? For that we need to use the secret key. So these many things we need to add. Okay, so one by one we will add. So once we add the header, so what next? Once we add the header, we will see what are all the methods available here. Do you have any claims? No. So when we say build, we will get the header builder. Okay, and what we have here, we don't have anything, right? Okay, we will do one thing. Instead of header, first of all what we will do is we'll say builder. We'll get the JWT builder. Okay, after getting the JWT builder, we will add header, then we will add this. So with this, what we will get is now what this header add is doing here, it is what it is returning. We will see it is returning okay. Okay, we will add and then it will give us JWT builder. Okay, so once it gives JWT builder, then we can add claims. So claims, you know, claims means what? Claims are nothing but this payload. So we can add, using the claims we can add subject, name, IAT in and expiration time and roles, authorities, so many things we can add. Okay, so how to add this? So this is basically a hash map. Okay, so we can add one hash map here. Map string object, I can name it as claims. Let's import it. New hash map. Okay, done. So I can add whatever I want now. Let's say I will add subject, because we have right here subject is nothing but the username. I will add here, but I don't know username, right? So we need to pass something to this method so that we can extract the username from here. So basically this generate token we call after authenticating. So we will have an authentication object, so we will pass that authentication here. Okay, so in this authentication object we will have the username. Okay, so that is get name. Okay, and next what we can add, we can add authorities, that is roles or authorities we can add. So here what we can do now is authorities. How can we get the authorities? Because in the authentication object, by the time of authentication we won't have the authorities. Yes, we will have the authorities, because after the authentication we will have the authorities in the authentication. So using this authentication object we can get the authorities also, and these claims we can add to the, we can pass to this method. Now we are good, claims are done. Now what next? Issued at, right? When, at what time we are issuing it? So that is nothing but the current date. We can put current date time. This is java.util.date. Next expiration date also we can put, that is what we can, it is up to our choice, maybe 1 day or 2 days or just 1 hour or half an hour, anything. I will keep it as 1 hour. So we need to add 1 hour, right? 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and into milliseconds, 1000, right? So after that what we need to do, we need to add the signature part, right? Signature part, this part. So to generate the signature, what it needs is, it needs 250-bit secret key. What is this 250-bit secret key? So this is actually basically a cryptographic key. this is in the binary format. Basically this is the binary format, 256-bit secret key. Not only 256, we can go for more also, but 256 should be fine, it is recommended. Okay, how can we get this? This is, we can create, we can add any random secret key. We can have any one random secret key and it should be a constant. Okay, so how can we get that? So for that I have created a small Java program. Using this Java program we can generate 32-byte, that means 256-bit string. I can 256 cryptographic key, that is binary bytes, that is actually basically bytes, that is in the binary format, that I can generate. But you know, we cannot save that because our systems are text based systems, they may not support printing the binary values, right? So that's why it is not, we cannot actually store the these random bytes directly into our maybe somewhere in the code, maybe in the properties file or in the system environment variables. So that's why what we do is generally we encode it to some text format, probably base 64 we can use for that. So we encode it using base 64 so that it will convert this bytes into some text format, and that text format we can store it somewhere. Okay, so what I will do, what I'm doing is here I'm using base 64 encoder to convert it into some text format so that we can save it in some place. Okay, so we will run this one and we will get some text. So okay, it is giving some text. This is actually 256-bit cryptographic key, that is the binary format, but I have encoded it to convert it into text. So this one we can save it somewhere, probably for now I will store it in properties file. Okay, maybe I can call it as JWT.secret, that is up to you, any name you can give. Right, so this secret I want, right? So this is encoded, base 64 encoded value anyway, that I need actually basically now, because I have to sign, I have to call sign with method with that secret key, but it won't take that binary value directly here. Instead it is expecting some key type. What is this key type? So we will see that. So for now what I will do is I will just create a private method, get key, get secret key, and which will take that secret. So that secret which we stored in the property file, we can get that here, right? Private string, let's say secret, right? So I will inject that here, JWT.secret, right? So this secret, if I pass over here, so it has to give me that key type. So that's how I will create a method here, create method. So it will take secret key. So actually here we have a class called keys. It will actually take which has a method called hmac sha keyfer. So this method will tell which method will tell that whenever we are using this key, in that if for example JWTS is using this key, so then it has to generate the signature using this algorithm hmac sha key. So that's what we are doing here, right? If you see here, hmac sha 256, this is the algorithm we are using to generate the signature. So that's why we call this method only here. And this method will take the actual cryptographic key, that is raw value it will take, but we don't have the raw value. We encoded it, right? We encoded it and stored here, right? So that's what in the application.yml file we encoded using base 64. This is not the original value, so it is the converted one. So again we need to decode it back to original value, then that value we need to pass, okay, to this method, sorry, to this method. So original value we need to pass here, original cryptographic key, we call it as cryptographic key, we need to pass here. But for that, what we need to do, we need to decode it, because we already encoded it and saved it, right? We need to decode it. How can we decode? Let's say byte cryptographic key equals to, it is actually the original secret, so we need to decode it, right? We have a decoders class, in that we have base 64, because using base 64 only we have encoded, and using base 64 only we will decode. So secret, that's it. So we are decoding it to the original value, and that original value we can pass over here, that's it. And this here we can pass the encoded secret, that's it. So after this we need to call a compact method, so this will generate the token for us, and we will return this, that's it. That's it, we are done with generating the token. So this is how we generate the token. Okay, this is fine. Okay, while we are in this class we also need one more method which will actually validate the token, and which will actually extract the claims, because once we validate the token, we need to get the details of the user, right? So that is also important. So here I will create one more method here, public. I will return claims. Claims are nothing but this payload. This payload is nothing but the claims. So this will be required for validating the token. After validating the token, we need to extract these details, and these details we will be using. So that's why I am returning this. Okay, and I will call it as extract claims. Okay, and here I am just importing this. So extract claims, what it requires? Token it requires, right? We are extracting from token, right? So token it requires. So again we will use the same method JWTs to extract the claims and also validating the token. So we will have a parser method. This parser method, using this parser method we actually validate. So we have one more method in the parser. We have dot verify with secret key. So verify with what it will do is it will actually verify the signature. So to verify the signature we need to pass the secret key also, right? So that's why it is expecting the key, right? So what we will do here, we will provide the key. Where is that method? This is the method, right? Get secret key. So this method we need to provide, I mean we need to call here to get the secret key. So what it will take? Secret, right? And also if you see here, it is getting some cached argument something, right? That means cached exception we are getting, right? That means it is asking us to cast it, because we are actually returning the key, but verify with will take what it will take. It will take the secret key. Basically secret key is again extending key, so that's why key is the parent class for secret key. So we can cast that key to secret key. Okay, so here what I will do is I will just cast it secret key, right? Done. So after verifying, just build it. So after building it, so it is done, verification is successfully done. Now we need to extract the claims. For that what we use it, parse signed claims. So here we pass the token. After passing, just we can call the get payload to get the claims. That's it. So we can return this, so it will give us the claims. That's it. So this is what we need to understand, and we need to practice if you master over the JWT. So we need to generate the JWT. Once we generate it, and also we need to validate it and parse it using builder pattern. This is very simple, right? We're using third-party API. So once we are done with this JWT service, and I will annotate it with the service, because I may need to inject this in wherever I require it. So I will just annotate it with service. So we are done with this main portion, right? Okay, now we are done. So this step is done. How to generate JSON web token and how to validate JSON web token. So these two things are done. Now what next? User request for token, right? By providing username and password, right? So for that we need to provide, for this we need to provide one endpoint. Let's say authenticate. Okay, so and he will be passing username and password in the request payload, right? Request body, and then we call the authenticate, and in that authenticate we will actually authenticate the user, and then we will return the token. So this is the step we need to take next. Okay, come here, let's close this. Yeah, close everything. Okay, next, what next? We will create a new controller for this. Okay, we'll create a new controller. Let's call it as authentication controller. It is a REST controller. Let's wrap it. So we return the string, right? So I'm wrapping the string with a response entity. Let's import it. Okay. Get JWT token. Let's say. Okay. It should be a post request because why it should be a post request, because we will be getting the username and password in the request payload. So that is the best practice. Don't send the username and password in the header. Just let's send it in the request body. Okay. Spelling is wrong, right? So okay, so here I need to pass the some model class. I need a model class here, right? Let's call it as authentication request. So I have to create it. I have to create this one. I don't have it, right? Create class in the model package. I'll create this. So what I need, username and password, right? Username, let's add some no-arg constructor, all-arg constructor, getter, setter. Should be fine. Okay, so this is done. So what next? So we need to return response entity of we need to return some token and some status, right? So first of all, what I have to do? First of all, I have to authenticate, right? Then I have to generate the token, right? Because we should not issue the token for anyone, right? We should issue the token to the authenticated users only. So first of all, we need to authenticate. That is important. How can we authenticate, right? For that, what we do? So in the previous video, in the last video, in the Spring security, so what we did, we have not authenticated. Who authenticated? Spring itself authenticated. We just provided user details service, right? We just provided user details service and password encoder. So authentication logic and everything was performed by whom? Spring framework itself. So but now I have to perform the authentication. That means I have to call the logic authentication provider dot authenticate method. I have to call explicitly, or I can either I have to implement these, or I have to provide this so that I can call the authenticate method on authentication provider so that it will perform the authentication logic. So how can we do? We have two options here. Either we can go with authentication manager or authentication provider. So I will go with authentication manager. Okay, so I will request for, first of all, I'll try to request to Spring, please can you provide authentication manager for me. If it is already creating the bean, I don't know, I will just check with that. What I will do is I'll just try to auto wire. So we will see whether it is injecting here or not. If it is injecting, no issues. If it is not injecting, we will get the error, right? So why I am getting the error here? Response entity. Sorry, it is a class new, right? Okay, so let's try to run it and see are we getting any exceptions or any errors. Yes, we are getting what we are getting. Auto were required true. Authentication manager that could not be found. So it is actually not creating the bean, Spring Bean, but somehow it is managing to call authentication logic. Okay, so I have to provide the authentication manager then. So where we will provide, I will go to the security config. So here what I will do is I will provide the authentication manager. So we have a way to provide that. We will see that authentication manager. So here I have to create the instance of authentication manager, right? How can I do it is there is an instance that will be injected by the Spring framework, that is nothing but authentication manager, authentication configuration. Okay, using this configuration object we can happily get the authentication manager like this, and it throws some exception. We can throw it or we can handle it. I will throw it. Okay, so this is how we can provide the authentication manager. So once we do it, let's run it and see again. Yes, it started successfully, but I'm not providing authentication provider. I'm just providing authentication manager object, but not doing authentication provider. So what will happen is, ideally, basically, authentication manager will call some default authentication provider. That default authentication provider will anyway utilizes these two which we provided, right, to perform the authentication logic. So no need to worry. So just providing authentication manager should be fine for now. Done. So in the authentication manager we will have authenticate method. So but what it is expecting, it is expecting authentication object. So but we don't have authentication object, so we need to create one, right? Equals to, so we know, right, for authentication object we need to create one implementation class. Sorry, we need to create instance for one implementation class, that is username password authentication token. So what it will take, it will take username password. It has two constructors. One constructor will take username and password. So username password anyway we have here, right? So what we'll do is authentication request dot get username, authentication request dot get password. That's it. So we are done with creating authentication object. So this you can pass over here, and again this authenticate method will return the authentication object. But this authentication has only username and password. But after authentication, this authentication whatever it is returning, let's assign it to here. It will have everything like roles also it will have, because it is fetching from the DB, right? After validating, it will return the original authentication details. Like for example, it will have everything like username password along with username password. It won't have password because once it is authenticated, this will automatically remove the password from this object. So password it won't have, but it will have username and roles. Okay, anyway, so we got the authentication, right? Yes. Now is that fine? Yes. Once it is successfully authenticated, we won't get any errors, right? So in that case, what we can do, we can generate the token. So how we can generate the token? We can call the method, right? Just we have created one service class. So let's get it. Let's inject it over here. JWT service. JWT service. JWT service. Auto white. Done. So let's take this equals to service dot get generate token. So I am passing the authentication. That's it, right? So I got the token, and that token I can hand over to the user. That's it. So we are done with generating the token, right? So now once we call this endpoint, user calls this endpoint, his username and password will be authenticated, and he will get a token. So we are done with this implementation. We'll test it anyway. Okay, so we are good with this. Now once we get the token, right, once we get the token, we need to validate it, right? So where we will implement that? in the diagram where we will implement that. So ideally we need to implement that before authentication. We need to perform that logic, right? So ideally we implement that logic in the authentication filter. So authentication filter purpose is that actually before performing the authentication, if you want to perform some checks, like for example JWT token in the header, is it available or not? If it is available, then if it is valid, then we can perform the remaining steps. If there is no token, then you can skip that. Still you can perform the actual authentication, right? Some kind of mechanism, some kind of logic before authentication, we can put that in the authentication filter. So it is a best practice to put that logic in the authentication filter itself. So we will create one authentication filter now for validating the token. Okay, so let's call it as JWT authentication filter. Okay, so let's put it in filter package. Done, right? So let's make it as component here also, because I will be using it, I will be injecting it anywhere I want. Okay, so anyway it has to extends filter, right? And also Spring provided one filter called once per request filter, so I can use that. It is also filter, but it has some uniqueness, like it will perform once per request. So we can use this filter. It's a best practice always in Spring Security. If you want to implement any filter, we can use this. We have some other filters also, but here we can use this filter. Okay, let's implement the method. So you know, here directly you can use this filter also, normal filter also, servlet filter also. Okay, but it's recommended to use this filter, Spring provided filter. Okay, so anyway, so now what we have to do, we have to get the JWT, right, from the request, right? How can we get it? So let's say string header equals to request dot get header. So header will have some name. Basically it will be authorization. Okay, so once we get it, we need to check, right? What we need to check, whether it has a value or not. So if header is not null, okay, good. And are we sending the JWT token? That JWT token starts with bearer, right? So we have to check header starts with and space. This is how we will send from the header. So if it is okay, it is sending, then we are good. So what we can do is we can actually store the, we can get the actual token now. What we can do is string token equals to header dot substring. So what is from which position we have to take? From these are how many characters? 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So from 7 we can take. Okay, and this token I will be using after if condition, so it is not accessible, right? So what I will do is I will put this outside and okay, so token we will take over here. If token is not null, what we have to do, we have to validate the token. So for that again we have the what we have already one method we have created, right? That is from the JWT service, right? We need the JWT service here, private JWT service. So using this JWT service we can actually extract claims. What happened here? Sorry. Extract claims, and we need to pass the token. That's it. So you know, in this step, if the signature is valid, if the token is valid, then only this will be executed successfully, otherwise it will fail. Okay, after it is successfully valid, then what we have to check is if expiration time is okay or not, if it is expired or not. Okay, So get the expiration, get expiration, and check if it is valid or not. Okay, if it is before date, then we are good. But if it should not be before date, right? Then it is expired. So if it is not before date, then we are good. So if it is not before date, so what we have to do now? So token is valid. What we have to do now? So ideally, generally, if you see this diagram, so that's why I was keep on in the first video I told that this diagram is very, very important. You know, authentication filter responsibility is, once the authentication is successful, we need to create one authentication object, and that authentication object we have to put in the security context, so that this security context will be used by the authorization process to get the roles and validate the roles. And not only that, if you want to normally in controller or in any service layer also, we can access the authentication object, that means user details, user roles, based on our requirement. So that's why authentication filters responsibility is to put the authentication object in the security context. So now anyway we are implementing authentication filter, right? So that's why it is our responsibility, that is this filter has to put the authentication object in the security context. So we need the authentication object now, right? So let's create. So again, authentication, username, password, authentication, right? Username, password, authentication token, and it has two constructors, right? Now what I will do is I will pass the username here, but I don't have username, right? Do you have a username? No. So from these claims I have to extract, right? So what I will do is string username equals to claims dot get subject. It will give the username. So this username I will pass over here, and what I need, second one is null, that is credentials. I don't pass the credentials. And the third one is what is the third one? The third one is authorities, right? So for the authorities I don't have authorities now, right? I have to get the authorities from the claims I can get, right? Claims I have the authorities, right? Otherwise I can get the authorities from the user details also. So let's try that. String authorities, string, not string, right? What type, what it will return? What is the type it will return? Claims dot get claims dot, we can, so instead of doing that, what we can do is we can extract it from user details. So what we can do is, here we can get the user detail service, and from that we can load the user details by username, and from that we can get the authorities. Okay, if the authorities are not present in the claims, we may put the authorities, or we may not put the authorities in the claims, right? But in our example we are putting, but we may not put sometimes. So it is a best practice to take it from the user details. So what I will do is user detail service, so I will take this. So user details and service dot load user by username I'm passing. So this user details will have get authorities method, so that will give me the authorities. These are loading from the database, right? So that after authentication from the database I'm getting the authorities, and that I'm putting into the authentication object. Now what I have to do, I have to put this authentication object inside the security context object. So how can I get the security context object? I can get that using the security context holder, right? Security context holder dot get context, it will give the security context object. So in that we can set authentication, right? That's it, done. So our job is done. So with this we are done with the implementation. Okay, right. So, and also in case if the token is not null, or if header is null, so in that case also we should we have to pass the request to the other filter, right? The filter chain. So that's why we have to add one statement here, do filter. Okay, that's it. So every request will pass through this filter, every request, even the authentication endpoint also, authenticate endpoints also. But in the authenticate endpoint, it won't go through this logic, it will just go to the filter, and it will be, we will be permitting it to not to authenticate in the configuration anyway. We will do that. So anyway, this we have to tell to the Spring that do this, use this filter, right? So for that, what we need to do, we need to go to the security config, and first we will get that here. So private authentication filter, auto wired. Okay, so this authentication filter we need to add, need to configure here. So just what I will do is, here, you know, we can add filters here, and here I have added, and we need to tell that, okay, add before the basic authentication filter, so that basic authentication filter can be bypassed. Anyway, if the authentication is done before this, then we are good. Okay, so now here there is a problem, you know, any request authenticated, then even the authentication request also, it should be authenticated, right, with this. So I will tell you why. And if you see the log, it is giving some error. Authentication filter needs security config need authentication filter. Cyclic dependencies are getting formed here. So actually best practice is not to configure like this. We need to configure in separate classes, so that there will be no circular dependencies. But what I will do is, for now I will just put this property, okay, to true. Spring.main.allow circular references, Spring will manage. Okay, Spring.main.allow circular references true. That's it. It will take care. Okay, it is done. What next? I think, you know, here in the configuration, if you see, every request is getting authenticated, even authenticate endpoint also will be authenticated. So without, we need to send that username and password in the header, and as well as in the body also, right? So I don't want to set in the header. Now if you pass like this, it will get unauthorized exception, right? 401 unauthorized. So I want to accept this without username and password, right? So for that, what I have to do is, this particular URI, this particular endpoint I have to allow. So for that, what I need to do, any request is authenticated, but here what I will do is, request matchers authenticate permit all. Okay, so this one I want to permit, then any request authenticated. So this particular request I want to permit. Okay, so now let's see. Yes, so it has authenticated successfully and generated the token, right? This token, just we can validate, just we can check here what details it is giving. So see, it is giving the type JWT algorithm, by default it is giving, and you know, the name Mahesh it is giving. Authority is also what the authority it has, Mahesh has role user, right? For Rakesh it is role admin. So this is the time issue date, this is the time when the token is created, and this is the expiration time. It is exactly 1 hour from the date of creation, right? It's 12:24. It is created 11:24. It is at the 12:24, right? So, and also if you see, so this is nothing, this is just a signature, it is, we don't know. So this is how, so it is generated the token successfully. So what next is, we need to read, we need to test it right now using this token. So first of all, without token, without no auth, I'm just triggering this, we'll see. So we are getting unauthorized. So with the basic auth, it has to give the access, right? Even with the token also it has to give, without username and password, right? So I will choose bearer token, and I will get the JWT token. and so here I will pass this and I will send. So it is giving me without username and password. I am able to access it, right? Yes, perfect. Now let's check the authorization. So let's say for post request, Rakesh admin has access to create, but Mahesh doesn't have, right? Mahesh is user role, right? So what I will do is with Mahesh I will try first. Token I have generated for Mahesh only, right? Yes. With this token I will try to access. I will try to create post request now. Authorization bearer token. So I have pasted here. Body is there. Now I am trying to trigger this. See, 401 unauthorized I am getting, right? Let's try with basic auth. Forbidden I am getting, right? But with bearer token I am getting unauthorized. Now let's try with let's generate a token for Rakesh and test 1 2 3 unauthorized. Why? Sorry, why unauthorized? Sorry, user password is wrong, right? Tiger 1 2 3. Yes, generated. And let's try to create with him. So I am able to create, right? Rakesh is able to create because he has admin role. So this is how we can implement JWT. Okay, so it's very simple, and but this much is there code wise, but definitely it is required because these are the inputs we are giving, and this is the customization we are making to implement JWT. So we are touching filter also, we are creating our own filter, we are creating authentication controller here, we are authenticating, and then we are generating the token, right? So this is how we need to implement JWT. Okay, and if you have any questions you can comment, and if you need more videos also you can comment. I'll prepare for you. Okay, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Thank you. Bye bye.